Hey y'all, if you want to know what put that smile on my sweet husband's face, stay tuned. From Spindle Mountain Mercantile, I am Heather. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Project number 1. Today's video is all about things that did not sell in my booth, and I'm going to redo them because every treasure deserves a second, third, fourth, fifth chance. Now, this notebook was not in my booth, but I had to add it into this because I'm redoing it for, well, not for me, but for my sweet husband, because he needs it, and you'll see why later on. It's a really neat notebook. It has piano hinges and the original tag in it. It's a little bit bumpy, so I just want you to see that because it still is super easy to adhere transfers to that kind of surface. I'm going to use Clementine. This is one of my all-time favorite books, and it's from last year's IOD Christmas release from 2025. I have not used the full pages a lot, so I was really happy to have something I could use a full page on. And y'all, this turned out way better than I thought it might. Oh, so good. So I used my transfer stick to go over the entire thing, and I often don't do this, especially if it's a smooth surface or if it's something I've already painted with Debbie's DIY cottage colors, because transfers they just go onto those really easily. But I wanted to make sure this was really, really stuck. So next, I just started going across the outer edges of the top with my transfer stick as I pulled back the carrier sheet. That's the plastic thing with the grid on it. And I worked my way down. I moved the notebook around like upside down and sideways and worked from the edges into the center. And wherever I felt like it was not wanting to adhere, I just turned it a different direction and started working on that part. So eventually I had all of the outside done and I worked into the center. Well, most of the outside done. Now, when you do words, they don't sometimes want to stick. So you got to really concentrate on those. But if you lift up your sheet and then lay it back down, if you lift it up and see that some of them didn't adhere, just lay it back down and rub it again, and it will probably work very good. So right here, I am using my fingers to burnish it, and I'm doing that because it is such a uneven surface, and I didn't want any of the pieces to catch. And sometimes if you use that carrier sheet to burnish, you can't feel them catch. So I used my finger, and I'm using liquid patina because it's not quite as shiny as Big Top. And I know that because Debbie Beard herself told me that. If you don't follow her, you really should. I can't recommend her more. She's just so fun and whimsical and clever. Don't know what that is. Yep, that's why you don't put your brush back into your container, because it gets contaminated. So do as I say and not as I do. I ended up putting 2 coats on this, and I actually did the entire surface even where there is no transfer, because what my husband's using it for will be in the kitchen, and I wanted to keep it very safe from getting wet and getting ruined. I just realized that maybe I should do the inside too. Well, anyway, here's what my sweet husband thought about the project I did just for him.
My wife makes me cook. This is my mugshot.
What you got?
My
Oh,
wife bought me this so I can cook more.
no. I made that for you so you could keep the recipes.
She made this for me and bought these wonderful inserts.
Because you had a collection.
All the loose collection of
What's that one?
recipes.
Go back. What's that?
Rutabagas.
That does look good, but this one right here. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And I'm very excited to make. Oh yeah.
Oh.
There's the rhubarb.
Oh.
All kinds of rhubarb.
Yeah.
Even rhubarb ice cream.
Wow.
There's
That tuna looks pretty good too.
rhubarb ice creams.
Do you like it?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, here's the rhubarb ice cream.
Oh my goodness.
It's amazing.
That just gave me goosebumps. Oh, look at this. What's that? Rhubarb amaretto bars? Oh my
Here's
gosh.
pictures.
Oh,
There's the amaretto bars, and
what? I love amaretto.
this is more my style, is to do a crunch, but
I wonder if we could do that syrup. That looks good though.
the only problem is we don't have any rhubarb.
Yeah, we have to buy our rhubarb. We tried growing it and it just didn't grow here.
It grows everywhere in Oregon. Thank you, honey.
You're welcome, sweet husband. Project number 2. I actually have 2 projects from this video that did not sell, and there they are, both right on the front cover of it. So I guess my taste is not the same as my customer's taste. I'm going to zhuzh up the little shelf today, and for that we are using Iron Orchid Designs foil transfer called Etiquettes. I really like this little shelf, and wall shelves of all shapes and sizes sell really well for me in the shop, so I was kind of surprised this one didn't go. That wallpaper design on the back is really cool, but maybe people just don't want the red. I don't know. I'm going to turn the red into gold and add some more gold over the wallpaper design. So I first laid out different sheets to see what I wanted to put on the back of this, and I settled for these 2 transfers. I didn't settle. I love them. I don't know what's happened. I guess maybe I got better at what I'm doing, because I know IOD hasn't changed their formula, but it is easier to put foil transfers down for me now than it was in the past. I know you can't use anything like pointy on them because that solid part of the gold, it will go down, the part that's not part of the design. If you scratch it, like make a, I don't know, if you press something really hard on it and rub it across, it's going to put down that. And you don't want that to happen. I know, because I've done that a lot. It's really helpful if you use the plastic transfer stick that IOD provides in every package, because then you don't have any of those sharp pointy parts. And just try to keep it as flat as you can. Now, when I get down to the words, sometimes I'll go around the letters with the corner of the transfer stick, and that seems to work really well. But I guess maybe I am just better at what I do now. Aside from that, there's really not much difference in applying foil transfers as there is regular transfers, and they add so much. This is a really good book if you want to try them out. They do cost more than regular transfers, but this book has a lot of little pieces of words and different print and very small pictures. It has some big pictures too, so this fits on a variety of items. And now I'm gonna tape down the second piece. It's a little bit bigger, and it is easier to move a foil transfer sheet. I'm not sure why, but I do like to use tape on those depending on what my surface is made of. I don't want to use tape on something that's gonna pull the paint up, but this has been sealed in like a year ago, so I wasn't worried about that. I'm using some of the tape that we use on the back of our picture frames. It's called ramboard tape. It's very strong, but it also comes off quite easily. I did move the tape a couple of times so I could work around it and peek underneath and make sure my design was adhering. I'm going to use Debbie's Design Diary Golden Ticket Liquid Patina. And you can use this different ways. You can use it as a sealer and put it very light so you can see through it, or you can put it on thick, kind of like you would use paint. And that is how I'm doing the edges and then I'm going to do the other part later. So I did back and forth. It's probably the equivalent of a coat and a half to 2 coats, depending on how thick that red was. This is something that it was painted red, and then I painted a light color over it, probably crinoline, because that's my favorite light color of Debbie's paint. And then I wet distressed it, and I sealed it after I put the paint inlay on it. If you want to watch how I did that process, I will leave a link for that video in the description. I let it sit after I added the liquid patina, and I wish I hadn't done that because I wanted it to blend more. I wish I would have wiped it back, not immediately after I put it on, but shortly thereafter. Where I did this part, the shelf, you'll see I went in fairly quickly with a wide brush. I don't know how much time elapsed right there. Maybe just a minute or two. I had to go get the brush, that's all, and it was just across the room. And I like how this looks. I like how some of the liquid patina is still thick and pooled, and other parts of it just blend in to the creamy part. I wanted it in the edge there too, so I added it and went right back through and spread it out. I love how this looked, and I wish I would have done this part first. Right here, I had forgotten to do a part. I just missed it, and I didn't even think about it. I'm holding both brushes in my same hand, and I just automatically, when I filled that in, I set down that brush and flipped my hand over and started using the other brush to wipe it back. And I was like, oh no, that was too soon. I didn't let it dry. And I love how it looked. So I realized that if I went back and added a little bit more liquid gold, I could still blend it. You'll see the bottom right here on the left-hand side is where I have used the liquid gold just as a sealer, and I did a very light coat over the bottom on the left, and the right I haven't done yet. And here I'm going back and adding in different gold and rubbing it out, pulling that into the center of the design. And I did take a couple of swipes. Oh, and there I'm adding more so I can actually get it to blend. So, in retrospect, to make clear, I would have not let the liquid patina dry. I was afraid of not letting it dry because I thought if I wiped it across the surface when it was wet, it would be too thick and you wouldn't see the design underneath it. And I realized that's not true. If that happens, you just wipe more of it off. You could use a towel. You just spread it out more. The more you spread it out, the thinner it is and the easier it is to see through it. I went over all the entire surface in parts of it, and I left a few places where it just had the inlay showing and the gold. And I really like how this turned out. And you know what? I think somebody else might too this time. I'll let you know. Project number 3. When I was working on this DIY Americana video, one of my projects was some old-fashioned milk paint in the color Harbor. I mixed 2 tablespoons of the powder with a little bit less water, and this was the vase I was working on. And you can see how much here I have of that paint. That's one of those little tiny yogurt things, the Oi or Wee, I think it's called. I don't know what it's called. And I wanted you to see this crackle. I'll leave a link for that video so you can see how I did that crackle. Isn't that phenomenal? Oh, I love that. Anyway, I had all this paint left over, so I just started grabbing stuff from where I'm working in our going to be dining room. And this pedestal was there. There was a plant that I got at IKEA that's just in a plain pot. I grabbed that. And by the way, this plant was like $1.59 years ago, and it was just little. It was like maybe a foot tall or less, and now it's like 2 feet tall. I'm pretty proud of that plant. But I grabbed some other stuff too, and I want y'all to know my life is like, if you look at Instagram and you know behind the person who's taking the pictures is their real life, that's what my life looks like. So when I picked up my little can that I keep my Sharpie markers in right here, I just didn't zoom in. I let you see my mess in all its glory. So now every time you look at Instagram, you can think of me. Okay, I'm using Madeline for this project, and I also added it to one of those things I found randomly to paint. And I'm going to show it to you now because it's not an unsellable. It's something I keep. Here's my Sharpie can. Isn't that cute? I just love it. Love having cute stuff like that in my space. All right, so this is a platter that did not sell. It's just like a dinner size silver plate, and it came with a basket under it, like a wire basket. I don't know if they're supposed to go together, but I thought it was a lid for the basket so you could use it as a bread basket. Didn't sell, and I had it pretty cheap, and I'm not going to go lower. I'm pretty cheap, so but I have a bottom line. You know what I'm saying? There is just a line I'm not going to cross. So I gave this a coat of Harbor, let that dry, and I added a second coat. And I want you to see how I'm doing the Madeline. When you put IOD on a curved surface that has lots of different layers or to the different curves, you want to start in one area and work your way across. Sometimes you want to start in the center, not with this one. With this, I started all the way at the top of the rim, and I went across the whole thing and then went back just below the rim where the curve is the widest. Then I went down to, there's like a little step when it gets to the next curve of the plate, and I did that whole entire step, and I just worked back and forth that way across the whole thing. You're going to get some wrinkles or maybe some little separations that look like a tear. The wrinkles, it's really hard to not get those. The tears, if you don't want that, you can lift up your transfer in that place and scoot it over so that it's connected. And it's still not going to match up perfect, but it looks good. And nobody's going to see those things unless you tell them. It's like when you were a kid and you went to your violin or piano recital and you really messed up and you're so embarrassed. And after you're done, everybody's like, oh my gosh, you did so good. And then you start believing them. What? Yep, that's how it is. Okay, so here's the different steps I did. And I couldn't figure out how to get this bird on there. I thought I wanted it on the side to fill in that empty space. But the more I played with it, the more I kind of liked him upright. Now, this didn't stick super easy to this paint, so I can put it on there without the protective backing. But if you have like Debbie's DIY cottage colors that have a sealer in them, man, transfers like a magnet to that. So don't take off the backing unless you're sure your transfer won't stick to your object. Up at the top, I added some more ribbon to make it hanging down more, and it had a gap, so I just cut out one of the flowers and put it over that. And I decided I liked the gap, so this is how I put the bird in. He's a little upside down. Oh, and I burnished this with my fingers very carefully to get all of those different edges. Now for the scary part. Okay, I sealed this. And I loved how it looked before I did this, but I sealed it with my new Pentart Fineline Crackle. And I don't know if I didn't do it right, but the crackle is real far apart, and you have to put something dark on it to make it show the crackle. Anyway, I wasn't even going to show you guys this because I liked it better before I did this. Now it just looks like a dirty plate. Or maybe it's like my piano recital and everybody else thinks it's great. I don't know. I want you guys to tell me, be honest, but don't give me a thumbs down. Man, a thumbs down means you hate the whole video. Just leave the thumbs down part and critique me in the comments, okay? Yeah, thank you so much. So this is Debbie's DIY dark wax. I went back over it twice because I'm really trying to get it down into those cracks to make it show. And it kind of did. But I think I did that wrong. I was really careful. I know L&J Goods says don't use any water. So I didn't. I was really careful with my, making sure I didn't have any water on my brush. Here's what it looks like up close. And there's some of the cracks. See that? That's the crackle that Pentart stuff made. I've always used the original Crackle, and it makes lots of tiny, tiny crackles. So I'm not used to this. That's not how it's supposed to look, right? I don't know. Maybe it's kind of cool. What do you guys think? Let me know. I don't know. I needed a way to hang it. I didn't want it to just have a plate hanger. So I took some of this wide lace that I found on the side of the road and ironed it out. It was kind of folded up. I found a whole huge bin full of lace and it was sealed, so it was not moldy or anything. Probably was there just that one day. I folded it once at a right angle and then folded it one more time to make that triangle, and I put the scallops both on the outside. And then I took the plate and put it upside down and made sure it was even. I actually flipped that plate over a few times to make sure the bow was right in the center of the top. And then I put the glue down, and my glue gun doesn't get super hot, so I don't have to use finger protectors, but I really wanted to mush this in that lace so the lace won't come away from the plate. So I just used the end of my paintbrush. I turned it over again to make sure that I was putting the other side in the right place to keep that bow right up there in the middle. And I did the same process with the glue, making sure to get it all the way through. You can put another piece of fabric on top of that to make it extra secure, but I think this will work. It's not a very heavy plate, so I'm not too concerned. So when I turned it back over the final time, I thought the lace was just too wide for the plate, so I decided to add something to it. And I'm using some twine that's interwoven with some satin leaf ribbon, and I bought it on Amazon. I didn't need to worry about I had to pull the lace back to put it underneath there. I didn't put it all the way down. That's not what's going to be holding the weight of the plate. The lace will be doing that. So I wasn't real concerned. This is just there for looks. And I want to put a bow on the top, so I'm using some velvet ribbon I also found on Amazon. I got this in 4 different colors. They have a plethora of colors, every color you can imagine, and I'll leave a link for that as well. If you buy anything from Amazon by using my link to get there, they will give me a small compensation but won't raise your price. This velvet is super high quality. I decided I wanted more than just the 2 tails that are on this bow. So I took another piece and tied it around the top of the lace, and I tied it in a square knot really, really tight. Then I just glued the other bow to it, and you could kind of see where I had glued it on. It looked like 2 different pieces of ribbon. So I took another smaller piece of ribbon and I wrapped it around the whole thing. So now it's that centerpiece that is between the 2 loops. I used my scissors to cut the tails at one angle, and I made all the angles the same direction towards the outside of the bow. So I guess they're not all cut the same way, but they all face outward. I hope that makes sense. You'll see when I show it to you. It did turn out pretty. I think it looks like an old enamelware plate with a silver edge, or I don't know, trim. Tell me what you think in the comments. Be honest, but don't be mean, okay? And don't give me a thumbs down. That's just not right. Project number 4.
Heather will leave a link for a video where we made this in the description. Now, what could be wrong with this? Is that not beautiful? We have a stamp, we have this beautiful transfer, and we got lace on the edge. But then you turn it over and these risers, although they're neat, made with clothespins, but they don't fit this. So very carefully we're going to pull these off because there has to be some use for these someplace, somewhere. We just have to find it.
They are great legs. You've always had great legs, Mama.
Oh, thank you, dear. That's what all the boys told me. Oops, I don't think this one's going to come on. Give me something, Charlie.
One of our regulars said, I was so glad when you found a different way. Here, move your hand so I don't cut you. I was so glad when you took the razor blade out of Mama's hand. I don't know if these are going to come off, Mama. Yeah, I think they're just going to have to be torn. Gosh, this one is really stuck. We can glue the clothespins back on. And the razor blade.
Ah! Miss Strong Woman. Okay, we will put these aside for some perfect thing for them. And to replace these, I don't think we can get all this paper off of here. Do we have to worry about all this paper, Heather?
I don't think so.
We have these neat little chest pieces that we're going to put on the back and make a neat little ricer. I'm going to stain these with our Debbie's Design Diary, liquid patina, dark and decrepit. I could take offense at that, but...
You're not decrepit. You got some pretty dark spots on your hands, though.
My hands look like I'm almost 90.
When will you be almost 90?
August 8th. Last year was fun because I was 88 on 8/8, but this year I'll be 89 on 8/8. Never thought I would live this long. I can't say I would have taken better care of myself because I had a good life. Lots of fun.
I think my mama has lived like 4 different lives in her almost 89 years. She has some pretty good stories, and she also has some stories she won't tell me about. And I probably would put my hands over my ears going, la 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 la. Don't tell me, because she's my perfect, precious mama who never did anything wrong. Right? Aren't they all, though? To use dark and decrepit for stain, you can add water to it to make it not quite so dark. You can wipe it off really quick, or you can let it sit and wipe it off. We like to just paint it on and wipe it off. And we use this for so many different projects. And here, I'm still learning my camera. Apparently, there's a setting on my camera that makes everything really fast. This is not sped up. I tried to slow it down and it was all blotchy. So those legs did not work. I took them off. And I tried to paint the back of this because we had all those little papers on there still, and it looked awful. And I got it on the lace. So I took the lace off, and that's okay because Mama had this better lace. It's vintage, might even be antique. I don't know, but it looked so good on here. It was just perfect for this little wood round I believe she bought at Hobby Lobby. And I learned that if I put just a very small bead of glue across and stretched it out, just making sure that the top was right even with the top of the board, then I could roll it to smush the glue up into the lace to make sure it doesn't come out. And I did that all the way around. Sometimes when I do things like this, I will take the ends and fold them under so you won't see a raw edge. But I didn't do that with this because the lace kind of just where it laid down, it wasn't the right place exactly, but you couldn't really tell unless you looked for it. The only thing I would have done different with that is I would have started in the back because it does look a little different and it's right up in the front where somebody might notice it more than had it been in the back. But it's okay. It wasn't horrible. Okay, for the leg. Oh, wait, before I go on to the leg, I used my scissors to cut the top of the glue where it smushed out of the lace when I rolled it. Okay, now the leg. I'm going to use a candlestick. It's just one of those easy, cheap candlesticks, I think from Dollar Tree. And I'm gluing it with my hot glue gun. Usually I would use E6000 or 2-part epoxy to make sure it stays, but I want Mama to see it before I do something that permanent. I showed it to my sweet husband and he thought it looked really good. It's just more delicate and it was perfect. Oh, look, he brought me a coffee. Ah, he's so sweet. Okay, so here is Mama's project, and now it's ready to put in the shop. project number 5.
Been in the shop almost 3 years. Heather lowered the price to $5, and she's not going to go any lower. So we're going to take all this off and put something new on it.
This does kind of look like a little alien or something, doesn't it? I don't know what it is. I thought it was cool when I did it. So these days people like chickens more than aliens. So we're going to go with this Chanticleer mold from IOD, and we're using their air dry clay to make it. Mama's going to do this part. She took the clay that we already had opened but kept sealed up real tight, and she rolled it between her hands for a little while and got it real pliable again. I'll tell you though, there's nothing like opening a new package of IOD clay. It is different. It's much easier to work with, but even like this, Mama's almost 90-Mama's almost 89-year-old hands with their pretty little dark spots still was very easily able to work with this clay. Iron Orchid Designs Molds has a little micro rim around the edge, and she used that like it kind of cuts off the clay, but then she took a knife and literally cut off the clay. This is a butter knife that's very dull, and she sawed it in a circular motion. Oh, look, I'm telling her, don't forget, Mom, you got to rub it around and make it smooth on the back. So she did. Sometimes she smacks my hand away when I tell her what to do, but she didn't that time, so I left it in. I guess now you know. So, oh well. Okay, so she used her fingers to help this little guy get out of there. Oh, and we used tapioca starch to put in it to make it loosen. We're going to use Titebond Quick and Thick on the back to attach it to our little canister. I thought this canister would sell. I don't know what was going on with that. It was probably the alien. I'm not saying it was the alien, but it was the alien. You know what show that's from? Let me know in the comments if you do. So one good thing. Oh wait, that's different. Something happened. I almost didn't show you how we messed this up because we messed it. I say we. I mean me. I messed it up pretty bad. But before I did, Mama painted everything with faded burlap. We painted it just as soon as we glued it on. We weren't worried about him moving around. If you have little pieces of clay, you might want to wait for your glue to dry more because it's really easy to move those around with your brush. But you want to paint your air dry clay before it dries, and that way it has less cracking. It's the moisture. That's the ticket. Okay, so Mama's making sure to get this in all the little crooks and crannies. And after this coat dried, she added a second coat. After that second coat dried, I got out a soft, clean towel and got it wet and started wet distressing. Debbie's DIY paints are clay-based, so they're water-soluble. That's why you have to seal them. But before you seal them, it's fun sometimes to pull it back to see what's underneath, just a little bit here and there. I did all of the edges on the lid, and then I went and did just a couple of the flat parts as well. And then I started in on the canister itself. And here's where things get juicy fun. I was doing such a good job. You guys, I'm so into this wet distressing. I just love this. I never knew how to do this before I started this channel. And I didn't even start doing it until months into it. And it's only been like a year and a half. So do you see what I'm going to get ready to do here? I didn't even know I did it. In fact, when I turned it over, I'm not saying anything. Mama's talking, we're talking about something else. I didn't even mention it. Here I am. And do you see what I did? He smushed. I smushed the rooster, y'all. He's so smushed, and there is no fixing that. I couldn't believe it. So here we go. There was no saving him. Usually I'd just take him off and wipe off the glue, or even I've washed off the glue before because I've done that, something like that before, or changed my mind. But this one had too much paint, and Yeah. So I redid the whole thing. Now, the one good thing about it, we put him lower. We had him centered before. That's why Mama had me put him on, so I could see from my standing up position. But we put him down lower, and it looks good. It looks better, we think, this way. I just still can't believe I did that. Ugh. And there was little bits of glue, but that's okay because we want this to look old and distressed. I did after this go through with a razor blade though, and I scraped some of that off. But it is what it is. So these are my new little wax brushes I got on Amazon, and these are my great big wax brushes that I've had for a long time, and I also got on Amazon. Those things are awesome, but I like the little ones too. And I'm using them to apply Debbie's DIY dark wax or Debbie's Design Diary dark wax. Yeah. I sell this. I should know exactly how to say it. Am I right? I made sure to use my pointy brush so I could get it down into all his little crevices. And I did different motions, like a circular motion, straight up and down motion. And then I went back and did this first side to make sure I liked it. You don't want to rub too hard if your rooster isn't dry. Oh, and if you don't want this much dark, you can put clear on it first. Let the clear wax dry like overnight or even 2 days, and then put the dark wax on, and more of it will pull back. But I wanted quite a bit on this. I want it to look dark and decrepit, I guess. So I made sure to get it down into all the little corners and the edges everywhere and wiped it back. And that is all I did to this. Now, I did ask my husband if he would take it outside and add some matte polyurethane that's clear on it because I think it's going to be used in a kitchen and I want to make sure that it's really, really, really waterproof. I trust Debbie's wax a lot, but I might keep this and I don't trust me. I've already done enough damage to that poor chicken. So in the comments, let me know, what do you like better, the alien or the rooster? Project number 6. I've had this tote in my booth since almost the very beginning. So I guess going on like 3 years and it hasn't sold. I was kind of sad because it's one of the first things I did with IOD. Mama was going to paint it with faded burlap and she said, that's way too many little pieces and parts to paint. So we decided to spray paint it and I changed my mind to black. I am using Iron Orchid Designs Clementine, which is one of last Christmas's 2025 releases. And this is one of my all-time favorites. So many neat things in here. I probably used 5 of these books. Yeah, I still have some pieces left. I didn't want to just abruptly cut off the parts that didn't fit, so I decided to cut off the entire section where the leaves or the berries, or well, I think they're seeds. I don't know, what do you call a pomegranate seed? I mean, I know what you call a seed, but the blossom, where it comes from. I guess it's the pre-blossom. I don't know. I'm not a phlebotomist. I know that's a person who does. I don't know. I'm not a plant person. Phlebotomist. Wow. Okay, so I'm cutting off whole sections, and then I will figure out how I want to put those sections back and if I have to cut any more off. But this way, the entire main portion of the design will fit on the end of that tote. This is called fussy cutting, by the way. That's what quilters do when they want to keep a certain design. So I placed it down, made sure it's in the exact right place. And again, don't do that if you think your transfer will stick. Keep the backing sheet on it. I knew it wouldn't stick immediately to this paint. But once I had it exactly where I wanted it, I used my fingers and rubbed the entire piece. And then I used my transfer stick and I did the same thing with it. I rubbed that thing everywhere because I just want to make sure, especially on the edges where there's parts where there's a board and then a space, I want to make sure that it is very secure on the board. So when I lift it up, the piece of transfer picture that's in the space, it's going to come up because it doesn't attach to anything. And I don't want it to pull the rest of it away from where there's a little board. Hope that makes sense. Sometimes I think what I'm saying doesn't make sense, so I'm glad you have pictures. And then sometimes I think my pictures are so distracting, you're not going to understand any of it. So I guess you're just here because me, mama, you like us. I don't know. Maybe it's the after pictures. Maybe it's something else. Or maybe you understand me. If you do, you have a superpower. I am holding down that piece with the transfer stick, and then I used my thumbnail as it went over the edge to rub it. So I'm holding it in one place and folding it over and rubbing it off in another place. And that's how I got that to go over the edge. And that was also the last piece I did. So it was, I didn't want it to pop up. So I was holding it very carefully because sometimes that happens at the end. I just cut off the piece at the bottom so it will look like it's still coming up from behind that banner. And I was going to cut off the part up at the top on the right-hand side of that, right there, that part. I was going to cut that off, but I thought, you know what? It looks good overlapping. It's more three-dimensional that way. So I'm just going through and using my stick until I get to this part. Now, that piece was too big to fold over. I could have cut around it and done that, but it worked this way. I just made sure everything else was stuck and I folded or pulled the paper, the transfer carrier sheet down so it kind of popped up, and that's how I got that to go over the sides. And these, I cut off a lot of the stem and made it look like those pre buds, pre buds are coming up out of the greenery. And I think that looks good. I didn't think they needed a stem. Maybe the stem's hidden behind the greenery. This transfer adhered really well to the matte Rust-Oleum paint. And I I thought I was going to leave it matte, but well, more about that later. Right now I'm doing the other side, and I didn't have any big chunks that hung over on this piece, so I was able to leave the entire picture intact. A lot of the edges of the picture did go onto the sides where the slats that go on the side of the tote are located, like the ends of them. So again, I just made sure that the parts of the picture that were on the slats were very much adhered before I lifted it up. And it did pull down a little bit of the part that didn't have a slat underneath it. So it was just kind of hanging. And instead of cutting it off, I just used my finger and rubbed it onto the side wherever it fell. So it looks like it's going over those slats. And I thought that looked pretty cool. I didn't worry about the ones that didn't make it if they didn't fold around, except on the top of the side. If it folded around that solid board that's on the end, right, like right there, then I made it fold over the whole thing. But right here, you can see right there, see, I just pushed that part of the ribbon down. And now I'm going back to Etiquette's, our foil gilded transfer. And I cut, I'm sorry, I don't have a picture of that design, but the design on the top is one long design, and I just cut it into 3 pieces and laid it like the middle down first, and then I put the top over it. And now I'm going around all of the different slats with various words and letters. I used matte paint, remember? I don't like to have a matte finish when I have the foil transfers. I want them to be shiny. So I decided I would use Big Top to seal this entire thing. And this is what Big Top looks like on my website. I just thought I'd show you a picture of what it looks like when you're shopping on my website, so it looks a little bit familiar. And I put this all over everything. I gave it one coat I think that it's sufficient. It seems real durable. I don't think it'll get scratched. I could put another coat over it. It dries very clear. I don't think it would be filmy or anything. I just don't know if I need to. I kind of did slather a lot on, but that's okay. I just took that part and used it on the other sides of the tote, and then it went through those slats, so I was able to do the inside. I'm gonna be completely honest, this was a disappointment to me because it's one of the first things I did with IOD, and I was sad it didn't sell. It kinda hurt my feelers. But now I'm really grateful it didn't sell because I can see how much more spectacular it is, and I don't think this will be in my shop very long. Look at this. I really gotta stop asking y'all which one's your favorite. They're all good, aren't they? And I'm not like bragging either. I worked hard to do this, and I'm still learning. I'm obviously still making mistakes. I hope our mistakes encourage you to keep making stuff, even if you're discouraged because you make mistakes. Sometimes those mistakes are what makes these creations better. I'm even starting to like this plate more. If you're interested in any of the products that we sell, you can find those on our website at spindlemountainmercantile.com. And we have a booth in upstate South Carolina at Centerville Pickers Market in Anderson. If you're new here, we are so glad you clicked on this video today, as we are with if you're old here. Is that right? Should I say if you're old here? I don't know. If you've been here a while, if you've been watching us, if you're a subscriber, I hope the new people will join us. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you liked this video, and if you did not like this video, it's totally okay to forget to give it a thumbs down. Until you see us again next Friday, Mama and I hope you have a wonderful week. And as always, we hope you are blessed. Bye.